When I asked my daughter why she never visited, she said, "You're dramatic, Mom. We have our own lives." She didn't know I had closed every joint account that same morning. My name is Margaret, though everyone calls me Maggie, and I'm 72 years old. Welcome back to Ashes of Inheritance, where ordinary women keep their composure while everything around them falls apart and walk away with their dignity intact. If you believe the quietest person at the table is often the one holding the most, you're in the right place. Drop a comment and be sure to subscribe. There's something comforting about knowing we're not alone in our experiences, isn't there? What I'm about to share isn't easy to talk about. For months, I convinced myself I was imagining things, being too sensitive, expecting too much. But sometimes the people we love most are the ones who hurt us deepest, and sometimes we have to protect ourselves, even when it breaks our hearts to do it. This is my story. 28 years ago, I held my daughter Jessica in my arms for the first time. She had her father's eyes, bright green, full of wonder, and from that moment, I promised her the world. My husband, Tom, and I weren't wealthy, but we were comfortable. He was an accountant. I taught elementary school. We had a modest house in Ohio, a reliable car, and enough left over to save for Jessica's future. Tom died when Jessica was 16. Heart attack, sudden and cruel. One morning, he was reading the newspaper at breakfast, and by evening, he was gone. The grief nearly destroyed us both, but we had each other. I held Jessica while she cried, and she held me. We promised we'd get through it together. And we did. I worked extra hours tutoring after school. I took on summer positions. Every penny I could spare went into Jessica's college fund. When she got accepted to Ohio State, I cried tears of joy. When she graduated with honors, I was the loudest person cheering in that auditorium. She met Derek during her senior year. He was getting his MBA, came from a well-off family in Connecticut. I liked him at first. Polite, well-dressed, ambitious. At their wedding, I gave them $25,000 as a gift. It was most of what I had left from Tom's life insurance, but I wanted them to have a good start. Derek's parents paid for the wedding, something lavish in Martha's Vineyard that cost more than my annual salary, but I wanted to contribute something meaningful. Jessica hugged me and whispered, "Mom, you didn't have to do this." I told her, "I know, but you're my daughter. I want you to have everything." The first few years were good. They moved to Boston, where Derek got a position at a financial firm. Jessica started working in marketing. They bought a beautiful brownstone in Beacon Hill. I visited twice a year, always staying in a hotel because I didn't want to impose. Jessica would take me to lunch, show me around the city, and we'd talk like we always had. Then the grandchildren came. First Oliver, then 2 years later, Sophie. I was overjoyed. I flew to Boston the day after each was born, held those tiny babies, and felt my heart expand in ways I didn't know were possible. "Mom, you're going to spoil them," Jessica laughed when I arrived with bags of gifts. "That's what grandmothers do," I said. But something started changing around that time. Jessica's calls became less frequent. At first, I understood. New babies, demanding jobs, life gets busy. I didn't want to be that mother who complained about not hearing from her daughter. So, I waited. I gave her space. When I called, she often sounded distracted. "Mom, can I call you back? I'm in the middle of something." But the calls back became rarer. I started texting instead, thinking that might be easier for her. Sometimes she'd respond with a quick emoji, sometimes nothing at all. My visits became shorter. "Mom, this weekend's not great. The kids have activities or Derek's parents are coming that week." I'd reschedule my flight, pay the change fee, and pick a different time. But there was always something. One Christmas, I suggested coming for the holidays. Jessica's response came through text. "Actually, we're going to Derek's parents' place in Vermont. They have that big house and it's easier with the kids." I spent Christmas alone that year. I told myself it was fine. Families split holidays. It was only fair that Derek's parents got time with the grandchildren too. But the next year, the same thing happened. And the year after that, 3 years ago, Jessica called with what she described as a practical suggestion. Derek's firm was going through restructuring. They weren't worried, she assured me, but they were being cautious with expenses. The kids' private school tuition was steep. The mortgage on the brownstone was substantial. Mom, I hate to ask this, but would you consider adding me to your checking account? Just as a safety net? If anything ever happened to you, it would make things so much easier. I could handle your bills, manage everything without going through probate. She made it sound so reasonable, so responsible, and honestly, it made sense to me. I wasn't getting any younger. I'd read articles about how complicated it could be when elderly people died without proper arrangements. Jessica was my only child, my only heir. Everything I had would go to her anyway. Of course, honey, I said. Whatever makes things easier. She also suggested we open a joint savings account. You could transfer money there, and I'd have access if you ever needed help with anything. Plus, the interest rates are better at my bank. I transferred $4,000, about half my savings, into that account. It felt good, actually, like I was still providing for my daughter, still being useful. Thanks, Mom, she said. This really takes a weight off our minds. Over the next 2 years, I noticed money occasionally moving from the joint savings. Never huge amounts. $8,000 here, $1,500 there. When I asked Jessica about it, she always had an explanation. Oh, that was for Oliver's orthodontist. Insurance didn't cover as much as we thought. Sophie needed a tutor for math. You know how expensive those are. Our roof had a leak. These old houses are constant maintenance. I never questioned it too deeply. That's what the money was for, wasn't it? To help my family. 6 months ago, I was diagnosed with osteoarthritis in both knees. It wasn't life-threatening, but it was painful. My doctor recommended I use a cane and consider knee replacement surgery within the year. I called Jessica to tell her. The phone rang 4 times before she answered, and I could hear noise in the background. Music, people talking. Mom, what's up? I'm actually at a charity gala right now. Oh, I'm sorry. I can call back. No, it's okay. What's going on? I told her about my knees, about the doctor's recommendation for surgery. I tried to keep my voice light. Didn't want to worry her. It's nothing serious, honey. Just part of getting old. But I wanted you to know. Okay. Well, make sure you follow the doctor's orders. Listen, I should get back. Jessica, I was wondering, would you maybe have time to visit? It's been almost a year since I've seen you or the kids. The pause lasted too long. Mom, you know how crazy things are right now. Derek's up for partner. Oliver's doing travel soccer. We're at tournaments every weekend. Sophie just started violin, and I'm coordinating the spring fundraiser for their school. It's just really hard to get away. Maybe I could come there. I could. The guest room's actually being renovated. And honestly, Mom, with your knees, the stairs in our house would be really hard for you. Something inside me cracked. Jessica, I miss you. I miss my grandchildren. I feel like I never see you anymore, Mom. Her voice took on that edge, the one I'd been hearing more and more lately. You're being dramatic. We talk, don't we? We have our own lives here. You can't expect us to drop everything just because you're feeling lonely. Dramatic? She called me dramatic. I'm not asking you to drop everything. I'm asking for a visit, a phone call that lasts more than 5 minutes, some indication that I'm still part of your life. See, this is what I'm talking about. You're guilt-tripping me. I have responsibilities, Mom. I can't just, look, I really have to go. Derek's waving me over. We'll talk later, okay? She hung up. I sat in my quiet house, phone still pressed to my ear, and cried. Not the gentle tears of sadness, but the deep, wrenching sobs of someone who's finally admitting a truth they've been avoiding. My daughter didn't have time for me. Worse, she didn't want to make time for me. The next morning, still raw from our conversation, I did something I'd never done before. I logged into the joint savings account and actually looked at the transaction history. Really looked at it. The withdrawals I'd noticed were there, yes. But as I scrolled back through months of statements, I saw others, so many others. $22,000 over 2 years for orthodontists, tutors, roof repairs. I felt sick. Then I checked my checking account, the one with both our names on it. Jessica had access but rarely used it. Or so I thought. There, buried in the statements, were more withdrawals, not huge ones. 200 here, 300 there. Money taken out at ATMs in Boston. My hands shook as I added up the numbers. Over $26,000 gone from my accounts in 2 years. I called the bank. The representative confirmed what I was seeing. Yes, Mrs. Patterson. These are all legitimate withdrawals made with the joint account access. Both account holders have equal rights to the funds. But I didn't authorize these. I understand, ma'am, but with a joint account, either party can access the money without permission from the other. That's the nature of joint ownership. After I hung up, I sat at my kitchen table for a long time. I thought about Jessica's beautiful house, her expensive cars. She drove a Range Rover. Derek had a Mercedes. The designer clothes I'd noticed on my last visit, the lavish vacation photos on Facebook, Turks and Caicos, Napa Valley, skiing in Aspen, and I thought about me in my small ranch house in Ohio, carefully budgeting my teacher's pension, buying generic groceries, wearing the same clothes I'd had for years. She wasn't struggling. She was spending my money I'd worked 40 years to save on luxuries while telling me she was too busy to visit. I didn't make my decision in anger, though anger was certainly there. I made it in clarity. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, and memories washed over me. Teaching Jessica to read, sitting through every school play, every soccer game, every parent-teacher conference, working 2 jobs after Tom died so she wouldn't have to take out massive student loans, giving her that $25,000 for her wedding, transferring $4,000 to the joint account because she'd asked. And what had I received in return? Canceled visits, 3-a-nut phone calls, excuses, dismissal, and apparently funding for her lifestyle. At 3 o'clock in the morning, I got up and made tea. I opened my laptop and started researching. By dawn, I knew exactly what I was going to do. First, I called a lawyer, not the family friend who'd handled Tom's estate, but someone in the next town over, someone Jessica didn't know. I explained my situation. Mrs. Patterson, you have every legal right to remove someone from your accounts or close the accounts entirely. He said, these are your assets. Joint account holder status doesn't change that. You can revoke it at any time. What about the money she's already taken? He was quiet for a moment. That's more complicated. Technically, with a joint account, she had legal access to those funds. You could pursue it civilly, claim financial exploitation, but it would be difficult to prove if she argues. She believed she had permission. I see. My advice, protect what you have left. Close the joint accounts. Open new ones in your name only. Make sure all your assets are secured. And my will, you can change that anytime. If you're concerned about inheritance, we can draft a new one. I thanked him and made an appointment for the following week. Then I called my financial advisor, also someone new, someone Jessica had never met. I explained that I wanted to move my money into accounts that were solely in my name. All of it. I need to protect my assets. I said simply, absolutely, Mrs. Patterson. We can set that up immediately. The day I decided to act was a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesday was when I usually went to the grocery store, and I kept to my routine, normal, calm, deliberate. I drove to the bank at 9 o'clock a.m., right when they opened. I dressed carefully, my good slacks, a nice blouse, my pearl earrings that Tom had given me for our 20th anniversary. I wanted to look confident, serious, not like some confused elderly woman who could be dismissed. The bank manager, Mr. Foster, greeted me warmly. Mrs. Patterson, good morning. How can we help you today? I need to close my joint accounts and open new ones in my name only. He blinked. Your joint accounts with your daughter, Jessica? Yes. May I ask why? I met his eyes steadily. Because they're my accounts, and I no longer wish to have a joint holder. To his credit, he didn't argue. Of course, let me get the paperwork started. It took 2 hours. We closed the joint checking account that had my direct deposited pension. We closed the joint savings with the remainder of my $4,000. $22,000 had vanished, but $18,000 remained. I transferred everything into new accounts, new account numbers, new checks, new debit card. Mrs. Patterson, Mr. Foster said as we finished, your daughter will receive notification that these accounts have been closed, just so you're aware. I understand. And she won't have any access to your new accounts. That's exactly the point. I also went to my other bank, the one where I had a small emergency fund, closed that joint access too. By noon, every dollar I had was protected in accounts bearing only my name. Then I did something I'd been putting off. I went home and changed my will. Instead of everything going to Jessica automatically, I set up specific provisions. A trust for my grandchildren's education, money she couldn't touch, donations to 3 charities I cared about, and yes, something for Jessica, but only a fraction of what she would have received. The rest I designated for a scholarship fund in Tom's name at the local high school. Money to help kids like Jessica had been. Kids who'd lost a parent but still dreamed of college. If Jessica didn't value our relationship, if I was just a bank account to her, then I'd make sure my money went somewhere it would be appreciated. Jessica called 3 days later, not a casual check-in call. I could hear it in the first words she spoke. Mom. Her voice was sharp, tight. What the hell did you do? I'd been expecting this. I was making soup and I kept stirring. Phone on speaker. I closed our joint accounts. I assume the bank notified you. You closed without even telling me, without discussing it. Jessica, they're my accounts. I don't need permission to manage my own finances. Are you serious right now? We had an arrangement where you took almost $26,000 without telling me. Silence long and heavy. I don't know what you're talking about, she finally said, but her voice had changed, uncertain. Now, I went through the statements, honey, all of them. The joint savings, the checking account, $26,000 over 2 years. Should I list the dates and amounts? Mom, that money I needed it for the kids, for emergencies. You said it was okay. I said you could access it if you needed help. Not fund your lifestyle, not take thousands while claiming you're too busy to spare me a phone call. This is unbelievable. After everything Derek and I, after everything what, Jessica? What exactly have you and Derek done for me? We've included you in our lives. When? When was the last time you visited me? Really visited. Not just a guilt-driven 2-hour lunch while you were passing through Ohio for something else. I have a family, Mom. Responsibilities. So do I. You're my family. Or you were supposed to be. For a moment, I heard something in her breathing. Maybe recognition, maybe shame. But then Derek's voice came through, muffled, but audible in the background. Just tell her. And Jessica's tone hardened. You know what? This is exactly what I told Derek. You're being dramatic. You're punishing me because we have our own lives and can't drop everything every time you feel neglected. There it was again. Dramatic. I'm not being dramatic, Jessica. I'm being practical. You have your own life, and that's fine, but you don't get to have my life savings too. You don't get to take my money while you can't even spare time for a real conversation. That money was supposed to be for emergencies. What emergencies? Your Range Rover, your Aspen vacation. I saw the Facebook photos, sweetheart. You're not struggling. If you're still watching, please hit that subscribe button. I promise you, you'll want to hear how this ends. Mom, I can't believe. Did you ever actually need the money? Or did you just think, Mom won't notice. Mom's old. She probably doesn't check her statements too carefully. That's not fair. No, Jessica. What's not fair is working 40 years as a teacher, saving every penny, losing your father at 48, and rebuilding your life alone, giving your daughter everything, and having her treat you like an ATM while claiming she's too busy to care. I heard her breath catch. For a second, I thought maybe I'd gotten through to her. Maybe she'd apologize. Maybe she'd realize what she'd done. Instead, fine, keep your money. Apparently it means more to you than your own daughter. And she hung up. I set down my spoon, turned off the stove, walked to my bedroom, and lay down on top of the covers, fully clothed, and I cried. Not because I regretted what I'd done, but because my daughter was gone, and I wasn't sure she'd been truly there for years. I'd just been too afraid to admit it. Jessica didn't call back. Neither did I. A week later, I received an email from Derek. The subject line was family conversation. I almost deleted it, but curiosity won. Margaret, I think you should know that your actions have caused Jessica significant emotional distress. She's had trouble sleeping and has been very upset. We understand you may be going through some challenges at your age, and we think it might be beneficial for you to speak with someone, perhaps a therapist who specializes in elderly issues. Regarding the financial accounts, we had understood that you wanted us to have access to help manage your affairs as you aged. If there was a miscommunication, we apologize. However, closing the accounts without discussion was hurtful and showed a lack of trust. We hope you'll reconsider and perhaps set up a family meeting to discuss this rationally. The children ask about you, Derek. I read it 3 times. The condescension was breathtaking. Challenges at your age, elderly issues. The children ask about you. When was the last time they'd let me speak to the children? I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my laptop and started researching something I'd been thinking about. Financial elder abuse. Turned out there was a term for what had happened to me. Resources, support groups, legal precedents. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't dramatic. I was a woman who'd been taken advantage of by someone she trusted. The next month was strange. Quiet, but not lonely. There's a difference, I learned. I'd been lonely when Jessica was in my life, but unavailable. Now I was simply alone. But the constant hoping and waiting and being disappointed had stopped. There was peace in that. I started attending a quilting group at the community center, made friends with a woman named Helen, who'd also experienced a difficult relationship with her son. We didn't dwell on it, but there was understanding between us. Solidarity. I scheduled my knee surgery. The procedure went well. Helen drove me home from the hospital and stayed the first night, sleeping on my couch and helping me to the bathroom. When I tried to pay her, she waved me off. That's what friends do, Maggie. Friends, real friends who showed up. During my recovery, Oliver, my grandson, sent me a text. He was 14 now and apparently had his own phone. "Grandma, are you okay?" Mom said. "You're sick." My heart clenched. "Just had knee surgery, sweetie. I'm healing well. How are you?" "Good. Soccer's going great. Made varsity. That's wonderful. I'm so proud of you. Mom says you're mad at her." I stared at that message for a long time before typing. "I'm not mad, Oliver. Sometimes adults have complicated situations, but I love you and your sister very much. Always. Love you too, Grandma." That exchange meant more to me than I could express. 2 months after our confrontation, Jessica showed up at my door. No warning, no call ahead. I was in my garden. The knee surgery had healed beautifully, and I was back to my normal activities. I looked up from weeding my tomatoes, and there she was, standing at the gate. She looked different, thinner, tired. The polish I'd always associated with her seemed dimmed. "Mom." I stood slowly brushing dirt from my garden gloves. "Jessica, can we talk?" "Of course, come in." I made tea. The ritual giving us both something to do with our hands. We sat at my kitchen table, the one Tom had built 30 years ago, the one where Jessica had done her homework as a child. "I'm sorry," she said finally, "for all of it. For taking the money, for the things I said, for not being there." I waited. Sorry was just a word. I needed more. "Derek and I went to counseling." She laughed bitterly. "Actually, Derek wanted us to go so I could talk about you, about how you were being irrational. But the therapist? She paused. The therapist asked me when I'd last visited you, when I'd last called just to talk, when I'd last included you in anything meaningful, and I realized I couldn't answer. I had no good answers. She looked at me, and her eyes were red. She asked me to imagine being 72, alone, and watching my only child slip away. And Mom, I couldn't. I couldn't even imagine it without wanting to cry. But that's what I did to you. Yes, I said quietly. That's what you did. The money wasn't even about need. Derek makes plenty. We have plenty. It was just there easy. And I told myself you wouldn't mind, that it was going to be mine eventually anyway, that you'd want us to have it for the kids. I justified it every time. You stole from me, Jessica. Let's call it what it was. She flinched but nodded. I stole from you and worse. I made you feel like you didn't matter, like you were an inconvenience, like your feelings were just you being dramatic. We sat in silence. The clock ticked. Outside, a cardinal sang. I want to pay it back, she said. All of it. Every dollar. I don't want your money, Jessica, but I want my daughter. That's what I've always wanted. Not your money, not your guilt. Just you. Real you. Present you. She was crying now, tears streaming down her face. I don't know if I know how to do that anymore. I got so caught up in the life Derek and I built, in looking perfect and being perfect, that I forgot what actually matters. So, learn again. But Jessica, understand something. I won't be treated that way anymore. I won't accept scraps of your attention. I won't be dismissed or called dramatic when I express hurt. I'm your mother and I deserve respect. You do. You absolutely do. And if you can't give me that, if you can't actually make space in your life for a real relationship, then it's better we keep our distance. I won't live waiting for crumbs from you. She reached across the table, took my hands. I want to try, Mom. Really try, if you'll let me. I looked at our hands together, hers smooth and manicured, mine weathered and spotted with age. She'd gotten her long fingers from me, her stubborn streak too, probably. I'll let you try, I said. But Jessica, actions. I need actions, not promises. The changes came slowly at first, then more steadily. Jessica started calling every Sunday evening, not quick check-ins, but real conversations. She told me about her life, asked about mine, actually listened to my answers. She sent me photos of the kids, not Facebook posts, but pictures sent directly to me with messages about what was happening in their lives. 6 weeks after our kitchen table conversation, she showed up again, this time with Oliver and Sophie. Mom, the kids want to spend the weekend with you if that's okay. I'll pick them up Sunday afternoon. I looked at my grandchildren. Oliver almost as tall as me now, Sophie with Jessica's green eyes. They looked uncertain, shy almost. We'd been strangers for too long. I'd love that, I said. That weekend, I taught Sophie how to make Tom's famous chocolate chip cookies. Oliver and I watched a soccer match and he explained plays to me with the patience I'd once used teaching him to read. We played board games, we talked, we laughed. When Jessica picked them up, Sophie hugged me hard. Can we come back next month, Grandma? Anytime you want, sweetheart. A month later, Jessica invited me to Boston. I want you to stay with us in our house. We've set up the downstairs guest room so you won't have to do stairs. Please, Mom. I went. The visit wasn't perfect. Years of distance don't evaporate overnight, but it was real. We talked about the money, about the hurt, about Derek's enabling and her choices. She showed me the bank statements proving she'd transferred $26,000 into a new account in my name. I hadn't asked for it, but she'd done it anyway. I can't undo what I did, she said, but I can try to make it right. On that trip, Derek apologized too. It was stiff, formal, but it was something. I pushed Jessica to prioritize wrong things. I'm sorry for my part in hurting you. The real change came 3 months later. Jessica called on a Tuesday afternoon, not our scheduled Sunday call. Mom, are you free on Saturday? I think so. Why? Derek's parents are hosting their annual summer party. The big one. The one I've never missed. I told them we're not coming this year. I told them we're coming to Ohio instead. All of us. I want the kids to spend real time with you. I want us to spend real time with you. Is that okay? I had to sit down. You told the Hartfords you're not coming to their party. I did. They weren't happy. But Mom, I've spent 10 years prioritizing Derek's family because they're wealthy and well-connected, and it seemed important for his career. And I let my own mother sit alone on holidays. That's done. That stops now. They came that weekend. We didn't do anything fancy. A cookout in my backyard, a trip to the ice cream shop in town, movie night in my living room with popcorn. Simple things. But Sophie fell asleep with her head on my shoulder during the movie, and Oliver asked if he could come stay with me for a week in summer, and Jessica sat in my kitchen helping me dry dishes like she used to do 20 years ago. Mom, she said quietly, thank you for closing those accounts. I looked at her surprised. I mean it. I was heading down a path I didn't even recognize, taking from you, justifying it, dismissing your feelings. If you hadn't drawn that line, hadn't demanded respect, I might have kept going, might have lost you completely before I woke up. You almost did lose me. I know. And that terrifies me. The idea that I could have become someone who loses their mother not to death but to cruelty. She wiped her eyes. You taught me something important, Mom. You taught me that love without respect isn't love at all, and that self-respect means standing up even to the people you love most. It's been 8 months since I closed those accounts. Jessica and I talk multiple times a week now. She visits once a month and I visit Boston regularly. The kids text me random things, funny memes, questions about homework, pictures of their day. I'm teaching Sophie to quilt. Oliver wants me to come to his playoff game next weekend. Derek and I have reached a cordial understanding. We'll never be close, but there's respect now, and that's enough. My lawyer helped me update my will again. Jessica's back as the primary beneficiary, not because I forgot what happened, but because she proved through consistent action that she values me as more than a bank account. The scholarship fund in Tom's name will still receive a significant portion because I still believe in helping kids who need it. But my daughter has earned her place in my life again. Sometimes people ask me if I regret how I handled things, if I think I was too harsh. My answer is always the same. I regret that it became necessary, but I don't regret doing it. Because here's what I learned. There's nothing dramatic about demanding to be treated with dignity. There's nothing selfish about protecting yourself from people who take advantage, even when those people are your own children. And there's nothing wrong with setting boundaries, even painful ones, when the alternative is betraying yourself. I closed those accounts on a Tuesday morning, and in doing so, I opened something far more valuable, the possibility of a real relationship with my daughter. Not one based on obligation or guilt or financial dependence, but on mutual respect and genuine love. My name is Maggie Patterson. I'm 72 years old. I have arthritis in both knees, a small house in Ohio, a teacher's pension, and a daughter who finally knows my worth. And that's worth more than any bank account balance could ever.